says, and this is, it says there in verse 1, and after 5 days, the high priest Ananias came down with some elders and a spokesman, one Tertullus. And they laid before the governor their case against Paul. And when he had been summoned, Tertullus began to accuse him, saying, and we'll read that in a moment. Tertullus is literally a paid professional orator. So he's kind of a lawyer, but realistically, his job is to make everything sound great. Once again, it's politics. I mean, right? This is like what we live in today, only we don't get killed if we don't like it. So in this, they get together, they hire this guy Tertullus, and this is what he says. Since through you we enjoy much peace. Lie. Absolute lie. Now, Festus was married to Drusilla, and she was a Jew. And again, we'll get the chart out hopefully next week and be able to talk about that. And so Felix, I keep saying Festus. Felix is married to Drusilla, and she is a Hellenistic Jew. She's adopted some Jewish customs. Not entirely, because she was married and then gets taken by Felix away, and she's like the daughter of Herod Agrippa II. So it's all keeping it in the family, as it were. So he's got this Jewish tie with Drusilla, so he's favorable to the Jews. He's favorable to the Jews because he doesn't want to tick off Claudius, just as Pontius Pilate lost his position because he ticked off the I can't remember the Caesar when he was there, but he did poorly and was removed. And so Felix does not want to get in trouble with the honchos in Rome, and he doesn't want to get in trouble with his wife. And so it's all this whole loaded scenario. Like the cards are stacked against him. Does that make sense? Like there's all this reason why Felix would never judge for Paul. And now you have Tertullus who's up there, liar, liar, pants on fire. And he says there, since though we enjoy much peace, and since by your foresight, most excellent Felix, reforms are being made for this nation. Yeah, reforms. In every way and everywhere, we accept this with all gratitude. You're like, okay, wow. Get my hip boots. Verse 4, but to detain you no further, I beg you in your kindness and to hear us briefly. For we have found this man a plague, one who stirs up riots among all the Jews throughout the world and is a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes. He even tried to profane the temple, and we seized him. By examining him yourself, you will be able to find out from him about everything of which we accuse him. There's a few things about this. Number one, these accusations play right to Felix, right? Because Felix is going to be favorable to the Jews because he has a Jewish wife, and it doesn't behoove him to make them angry and to cause a riot because he'll be removed. He'll be chastised by Claudius. So you have these accusations that basically work on three things: him personally, and then also politically. Because they say, if you recall, the accusation was, this guy stirs up riots everywhere he goes. So that's bad for Felix, right? Because if you have someone who's stirring up riots, it looks like there's unrest in your area that you're governing. That gets back to Rome, and all of a sudden you're in hot water again. And there's a third, and this might even be the worst. They say that he is the leader of the sect of the Nazarenes. Now, the word sect here in the Greek is where we get our word heresy, right? And a heresy for us, for English, when we're talking about it in the church, is any teaching that attacks or maligns the person of Jesus or what he did at the cross, right? So a heresy isn't we believe in tongues, we don't. A heresy is Jesus didn't bodily raise from the dead. That would be a heresy. A heresy would be that Christ didn't actually die. It's an attack on what he did at the cross. Does that make sense? So when Tertullus is now communicating, he's saying not that this is just some other section of Jews. He's making the point, these guys aren't Jews. They're a heresy of Judaism. Why does that matter? Because you were not allowed to practice any religion that was not approved by the Roman government. And Christianity was not approved by the Roman government, but Judaism was. Up until this point, and for a few years after this, Christianity will still be legal in Rome because it's looked at by Romans as being part of the Jewish faith. once they finally detach it and say legally, no, this is not Judaism anymore, this is Christianity, that's where you're going to see guys like Domitian and Titus. They're going to, over the span of about 150 years, are going to kill hundreds of millions of Christians because they begin to just weed it out of Rome for as much as they can. So this is the beginning of something that's actually incredibly destructive, this idea that this accusation that Christianity is not part of Judaism, which it was born out of Judaism, and that's about where it ends. So, having said that, verse 9, the Jews also joined in the charge, affirming that all these things were so. Again, this is a major, just put yourself in this position. It feels bad enough when you have an issue with one person, doesn't it? Like for example, if you know that you have beef with someone at church, it makes it stressful to go to church, doesn't it? If you know that there's one person that you don't agree with or you're having an issue with and you haven't worked it through for whatever reason, like sometimes we won't even go to church. We'll avoid it. I'm not trying to make a statement here. I'm just saying in this position, this is a whole group of people that hate him, want to kill him, and then you have a whole other section of people that are like, yeah, and another thing. It's discouraging. It stinks to be hated. It especially stinks to be hated if you're like, I'm just trying to help you. I care about you. That's where Paul's at. Again, we're trying to go from this, the up and down, just the craziness of life, to more like, okay, how can I address each bad and good thing that occurs in my life, filtering it through what God's working in me and what he can do in me, rather than responding to each crazy thing that happens with just some outlandish emotional response. And here we're watching Paul, and here we really see, because he's going to reply. In verse 10, and when the governor had nodded to him to speak, Paul replied, knowing that for many years you have judged over this nation. True statement. I cheerfully make my address. True statement. You can verify that it is not more than 12 days since I went up to worship in Jerusalem. That's a rough 12 days. And they did not find me disputing with anyone or stirring up a crowd, either in the temple or in the synagogues or in the city. Neither can they prove to you what they now bring up against me. But this I confess to you, that according to the way which they call a sect, I worship the God of our fathers, believing everything laid down by the law and written in the prophets, having a hope in God, which these men themselves accept, that there will be no resurrection, that there will be a resurrection of both the just and the unjust. So I always take pains to have a clear conscience towards God and man. Now, after several years, I came to bring alms to my nation and to present offerings. And while I was doing this, they found me purified in the temple without any crowd or tumult. But some Jews from Asia, they ought to be here before you and make your accusation, should they have anything against me. Or else let these men themselves say what wrongdoing they found when I stood before the council. Other than this one thing, that I cried out while standing among them, it is with respect to the resurrection of the dead that I am on trial before you this day. So Paul gives his rebuttal, and he's making true statements. He says, you've ruled here for a long time. That's a true statement. He's being diplomatic. He says, I'm glad I get to give you a defense, right? He's not lying. He's not saying, you're doing a great job. I really appreciate what you do here. He's saying, hey, this is where we're at. See, remember, and I think I mentioned this a couple teachings ago, there's a website, I wish I could remember the name of it, I think I have it on my favorites, where you can go back and you can actually read through the 2nd and 3rd century, you can read the letters that Christians were writing to these Caesars. It's incredible, because they write, and they start off and they say, O wise Caesar, intelligent Caesar, philosopher Caesar, please stop throwing us to the lions. This is why we worship the way we do. So there's a difference between lying and just being courteous. And Paul here, he doesn't freak out. He doesn't have a rager. He doesn't have a meltdown. He knows that God is with him. He knows that he's going to Rome. He knows that he's got a calling on his life. And so he says, here's what's going down. This is what they said. This is the truth of the matter. He brings up the law. The law in Rome was that if you accuse somebody, you had to actually be there. So these Jews in Asia that made up the fact of him profaning the temple, the Tertullus references, they're not even there. So they can't even actually make that accusation legally against Paul. Does that make sense? So that's what this whole thing is, a giant sham. This is the bad part. I mean, if sitting in that courtroom must have been at least tempting to just be discouraged and to wail and to, what is happening to me? Why is it going this way? Why won't the truth come out? Why won't this be different? Because he's on a mission. Something I've been thinking about a lot lately. We can get really wrapped up in kind of the whodunit of life. Not just when people wrong us, but it's funny because like sometimes somebody will say something, and I'm not trying to be accusatory here, so hear me out. Well, we'll say something like, I was trying to get to church, but I was late. Satan was trying to stop me. Right? But then we'll find out, oh, there was a huge accident, and I didn't get in it. God was delivering me. I didn't get in the accident. Right? It's like we go to this like back and forth, like whose fault is it? Am I sick because I'm naughty and God's made me sick? Or is it Satan oppressing me and I need to rebuke him? Which is it? Who did it? And we get all wound up. And depending on our personality, that's usually who we side with. Right? So if we're negative like me, we're like, this is all Satan or it's all my fault. If you're like super positive, you're like, oh, God's just keeping me. This is so great. But there's like this weird dilemma, like we have to find out what's every motive. Who did this? Like it's some sort of closure in our lives. When in reality, other than the fact that knowing that Satan hates you and wants to destroy your life, he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So everything born out of this world and its system is rotten. Other than knowing that, it doesn't matter why it happened. It literally does not matter. It just mattered that it did happen. And now how am I going to deal with it? If I'm late to church and I get in this weird, fantastical thing about Satan oppressing me, that's going to put me in a certain mindset, isn't it? If I just go, well, I'm late to church, I guess I should have brushed my teeth faster or whatever, then I can just go and I don't have to worry about it. Because be it Satan or me or the world or God or some other whatever, it becomes irrelevant because I know God can use it. All that matters in the situation now is how do I respond to it? Even if Satan has some sort of cosmic plan to make you late for church, it's okay. You can still get here. You can still talk to people after the handshake. You can, hang out afterwards. I'm not trying to be trite, but this is don't we get in these weird things? Well, we'll get all bummed out and be like, he's just out there and he's just kicking my Glutius Maximus and he's just, all this stuff, right? Greater is he that is in you, that is in the world. Satan's got plans. He wants to destroy you. It's cool. It's how things go. We don't have to sweat it. Because God is going to work anything that happens to us, he's going to work it out. And even in the most terrible of sufferings, we can experience the true joys. We can experience God coming through for us. Even up to the moment that we're beheaded by Nero, as it were.